there's been rapid growth in both innovation and investment, which makes it challenging to get reliable, complete, and up-to-date insight into the patent landscape in most technology areas. The field of patent protection is growing more complex, especially over the last 10 to 20 years. Also, there are increasingly blurred lines between traditionally defined disciplines of science and technology, which makes designing and executing a search more difficult. Consider, for example, things like smart sensors used in biomedical science. These are based on a combination of the fields of biology, biophysics, engineering, and computer science. Consider also robots used for home cleaning purposes. These might mean searching computer science, mechanical engineering, and maybe even chemistry for specific cleaning agents. These increasingly blurred lines mean you most definitely need to consider multiple angles and multiple approaches for your search strategies. So what's at risk? When a search is not done right and you are later found to infringe, it's potentially going to cost you or your client a lot of time and money. And litigation's costs can easily mount into the millions just for one case. So when you're asked for an FTO report, you can avoid some of these risks by defining your strategy and asking these questions and considering some of the best practices. So understand what's being asked. What is the client's goal? How are they going to use the information? What are the details of the new product or process? What geographic area are they interested in? Normally, it's most cost-effective to do a worldwide search instead of piecemealing geographic areas in several different stages. Know your limits. Consider, do you need a specialist? How many and which databases should you search? Are pending applications included in your search? Normally, in most cases, we do include them since they can mature into granted patents. Consider legal status. Many of our clients choose to see patent families with at least one alive family member, and therefore they may want us to remove those families with all dead members. Consider also that one search is not done. Most projects will require iterative searching until commercialization. Consider also whether to continuously monitor the landscape. It is usually most cost-effective to set up an automatic alert on the subject technology at the time the initial search is done, rather than 6 or 12 months later. When you get into the searching, these are some of the best practices to remember. So use a reputable search company with expertise and resources related to your technology. Know where the search company, the professionals, and the search tools are located. Be cautious with public search tools and AI tools, as they often collect user data and even your specific queries. So be sure to keep the invention, or the details of the patent, the process or the product, and the search query and the results confidential. Searches should be done in multiple databases and iteratively. You can't really rely on one approach in one database, as you will most likely miss relevant patent families. And the search report should be well documented and reproducible. So searching looks very different depending on what art you were looking for and what science you're most focused on. At CAS, we work mostly with chemistry and biology related sciences. So we're going to briefly go into a few nuances to keep in mind about these different technology areas. In the biomedical or medical device area, you can often focus your search on patent classifications and strategically focused keywords, depending upon what the class definitions are. We sometimes use the biosis file on STN for biomedical searches. And for medical device searches, it's also good to use tools that make it easy to search for classes, to view images, and use medical ontologies. So perhaps Origin, PatBase, or Orbit, for example. With chemical formulations, you need to determine those components or groups or components or groups of components which are mandatory and those which are optional for the search by interviewing your client. So using the CAS registry file and the CAS formulations database on STN, this allows us to limit the search to the mandatory components in the claims. The HCA Plus file also allows us to limit to substances claimed. With polymer searching, we are often focused on monomers or starting materials or structural repeating units or SRUs, which are searchable in the CAS registry file. The polylink command is used to locate related registry records for condensation polymers that may be registered using either their monomers or SRUs. And CAS registry also has polymer class terms for things like polyesters, polyacrylics, and other broad types of polymers. Sometimes we also need to search polymer properties, and this can be done in the Derwent World Patent Index file or full text files on STN. Also, DWPI has the Derwent Polymer Indexing System, which creates a hierarchical index for patent texts and claims. With sequences, the approach varies depending on the type of sequence it is. For example, whether it's a short one, an antibody, or a chemically modified sequence. And there are specific tools and approaches for dealing with each of these. For example, a short sequence might be searched using GenePast on GenomeQuest, and a chemically modified sequence might be found using 9. At CAS, we have experts in all of these areas mentioned. Okay, so thank you for your attention. And now Christine is going to talk to you about the remaining 2 items focused on chemistry.
Yes, thank you. So Lucy already gave you quite some information. Oh, I want to stay here. Quite some information about what options you have and what to keep in mind. A different aspect, though, which is also a major advantage of STN Next, is the possibility to carry out structure searches. For exemplified structures and reactions, you can and you should use a variety of databases like CAS React or Registry by CAS, DCR by Clarivate, and Reaccess File Sub by Elsevier. Markush searches are also available in the databases MarPet by CAS and DWPIM by Clarivate. If your focus is on synthetic chemistry, let me just give you a few search options. So, for example, for preparing a specific compound by any route, you can just search your respective structure and then apply the attribute product. If you want another aspect to be fixed, like the catalyst or the solvent, you can restrict your answer set accordingly. However, if you don't really care about what the structure looks like and you really just want to convert one specific functional group into another, you also have a tool for that in your toolbox. By selecting the functional group you want to start with and the one you want to have prepared, you can just search any kind of reaction covering this kind of conversion. Another more important topic, especially in the drug design, is Markush searching. Compounds are not always defined 100%, or a long list of variations might be claimed. These Markush patents can be hard to find, and they won't be retrieved when searching only in exemplified structure databases. Hence, to avoid infringement, it is crucial to search the Markush databases as well. To carry out such a search can be tricky, and the search structures have to be well thought through. One important factor are the match levels. Since Markush searching is so important, I would like to go into a little bit more detail here. But first of all, let's have a quick look at how search structures and their results might look like. So here on this left side, you can see the structure query. It contains 2 6-membered rings. The one has 2 nitrogen atoms, 2 keto moieties, and a substitution, which can be an aldehyde, an amide, or a carboxylic acid. Furthermore, we have a more unspecified 6-membered ring, and here you can see these bonds are kind of dotted. That means that these bonds are unspecified. So at these positions, we can have single bonds, double bonds, triple bonds, everything is allowed here. These 3A nodes you can see are generic nodes claiming that any kind of atom is allowed here, anything besides hydrogen. So it can be carbon, nitrogen, whatever. If the structure is now searched as a substructure in the exemplary substance database registry, you will find a hit structure, for example, as you can see in the middle here. Everything is nice and defined. It's highlighted in blue what the structure, what the query retrieved in the database. And you can see the unspecified ring is here a phenyl ring carrying 2 nitro groups. The Markush match, on the other hand, you can see on the far right. It also contains all the structure information that we wanted, but it also covers more generic definitions. For example, here these G groups, the G1, the G19, and you can see at the phenyl ring these numbers like the 473 and so on, which indicate that further substitution is allowed here as well. As I mentioned earlier, Markush searching can be tricky, but how so? Markush searching on SDN allows you to focus or to broaden your search by adjusting the match level of selected atoms in your structure. And this might significantly change your number of hits. But what does these match levels mean and what kind of levels are there? I try to explain that in a very simple example. Here at the top, you can see structure of 2-methylquinoline. And this methyl group can be defined in 3 different ways. The levels that are optional, that can be chosen are the atom match level, the class match level, and any. If the methyl group is set as atom, the results will only have a methyl group that is specifically mentioned. So no generic attributes are given here, only the specific methyl group is found. The class definition, on the other hand, will retrieve the specific structures, but it will also find compounds which generically mention an alkyl without further specifications. So it can be just mentioned as any alkyl group. It can be mentioned as alkyl containing 1 to 4 carbon atoms, something like that. Lastly, the any match level, as the broadest definition, will retrieve all results found with atom and class, but also structures with a generic R group for any residue or just a text descriptor like optionally substituted. However, if a methyl group, if instead of a methyl group, something completely different, like a halogen, for example, is mentioned, such a structure would not be retrieved even with any. So why is it so important to pay attention to the match level? Let me show you the impact of different match level settings can have. So here you have a table covering different kind of searches, and the structure that is searched is shown here on the right. It contains 2 heteroatoms, heterocycles, and 1 carbocycle. And besides everything else is searched as on class. Everything is logged. There's no different substitution allowed, but we can play with the match level, especially with the heteroatoms. So the most narrow search is the one on the left, where we will retrieve just 1 hit. In this case, all heteroatoms in the rings, so both nitrogen atoms and the oxygen, are set as atom. Everything else is class. And this 1 hit you can see is nicely defined. There's no generic attribute here. Everything is defined. The one in the middle, there we have different options here. What I would recommend is to select one of the heterocycles and define the heteroatoms as ring, in the other ring as class, and then do the reverse. So you do both. And as you can see, instead of 1 hit, you will retrieve 556 hits. and they don't look too bad. So with this kind of search, you will retrieve the specific one, the one you see on the left, plus 55 additional ones, where one of these heterocycles is generically described and the other one is specifically defined. The broadest way to go here is to leave everything in class. This is the right column. And again, you will retrieve all the hits retrieved before. But as you can see, the amount of answers is increased significantly. This is probably too much, but that always depends on the search. So here you have the completely generic answer at the top. You can see there is nothing specifically described. Everything is generic. Generically described, you have AK nodes, carbocycle nodes, heterocycle nodes, but nothing specific. So if you're unfamiliar with these kind of things, I know this has been a lot of information, so maybe an example might help here. Let's assume one of your clients wants to apply for a patent on a drug. In this case, it's futibatinib, and they want to bring it to market. Therefore, they will need a patentability and an FTO search. Futibatinib is a cancer drug, and it's used for bile duct cancer and was approved by the FDA in 2022. And the structure you can see here on the right. Since everything is nicely defined, the first step would be to search in the substance databases. In the CAS Substance Database Registry, the database entry for futibatinib looks like this. You can see the registry number. It's directly below the answer line at the top. You can see the chemical names, including the UPEC name, trade names, the developer codes. So everything which belongs to this kind of structure will be listed there. This record has been added to the database on August 12th in 2013. And below all this entry information, you can see the hit structure, which is highlighted in light blue. Since registry now is a substance-based database, to retrieve the bibliographic information, you will need to cross over these hit structures to the corresponding database CA+. However, in the locator field, LC, you can see it's directly above the structure. You can see all the files on STN which contain any kind of information concerning this compound. After searching the exemplified substance databases, the Markush databases have to be used as well. The CAS Markush database MARPAD is, in comparison to registry, a document-based database instead of substance-based. So you can directly display your bibliographic information like the title, the patent assignee, patent numbers, and so on, which you can see here on the right. And you can see the whole patent family is listed as well. On the left, you can see the hit structure. Especially in the Markush databases, it is really important to display your assembled hit structure. In the QHit format here is the query hit, so the assembled query hit structure of what you've been searching. And it's especially important to be able to decide on the potential relevance. Otherwise, you just won't be able to say whether you're interested in this kind of document or not. The QHit display format further contains additional information. In this case, we have additional information on potential substitution, so generic information. And you can see the patent location. In this case, the structure is mentioned in claim 1, which is good to know. And sometimes, but not always, but luckily here it is the case, the indexer will include a note field or information in the note field. So information they think might be important for the searcher to know will be included here. So in this case, the indexer added the information that pharmaceutically acceptable salts are covered as well. This search here in MARPED retrieved about 90 unique references additional to the hits retrieved in registry CA+. Now, SDN Next is not the only platform that offers Markush searching. SciFinder by CAS also allows users to search for structures, but there it's usually in a little bit more intuitive manner. However, the structure editor is somewhat less flexible than on SDN. For example, one has to be aware that it is not possible on SciFinder to change the match level. They are fixed, it's just not possible to change that. The fixed default settings are that all ring systems are on atom and all chains are set on class. I want to emphasize that again, you cannot change that. If you need such a degree of flexibility in your structure search, then it will be necessary to change to SDN Next. Nevertheless, SciFinder is a great tool, especially for end users. So, of course, we will have a look at footibatinib here as well. The structure in SciFinder can be searched, can be drawn just as on SDN in the editor. The editor is very similar on both platforms, so it's very intuitively usable. The structure, after the structure has been drawn and it's ready for searching, you can choose between two different Markush search types. First of all, you can carry out a search as drawn. There are no additional substituents are allowed, so everything is really as drawn, no further substitution, no ring fusion, and so on. This is analogous to the closed substructure search on SDN Next. And secondly, you have the option to carry out a substructure search, which corresponds to the substructure search on SDN Next, allowing any kind of substitution or ring fusion on your drawn structure. Now on the right here, you can see examples of the as drawn search. So you can see it's just two examples of these 7 results retrieved here. You can see on the left the hit structure. It's also highlighted in blue. You can see some generic information, these G groups again. And directly above the structure, you have the corresponding patent number. And on the right, you have the title of the respective document. The inventor, patent assignee is mentioned, and you can see the where this structure is mentioned in the document. In both cases here, it's again claim 1. And which is really neat, you have the link to the full text. You can use the patent pack link or the other full text link directly next to it. So this comes in quite handy.